Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Happy Thankful Thursday. I'm just going to give a couple minutes for some folks to join us. Hey, Reverend Mo. Happy Thankful Thursday. I'm just going to give a minute or two for a couple more folks to join us. Hello, everyone. Happy Thankful Thursday. Well, hello out there. My name is YazzieSpeaks Arrington. I am the 2022 Juvenile Justice Fellow at the Center for Public Justice, aka CPJ, and I'm also your host for this CPJ series on transforming juvenile probation, successful diversion programs. CPJ has been doing we've been doing these interviews with amazing faith leaders and organizations across the country that are doing groundbreaking work, boots on the ground, working with young people who've been directly impacted by probation, the juvenile justice, the court system. The Center for Public Justice is a national nonpartisan Christian public policy organization. Our mission is to equip citizens, develop leaders, and shape policy in pursuit of our purpose to serve God, advance justice, and transform public life. CPJ works on a variety of public policy issues, including criminal and youth justice reform. CPJ believes that faith-based organizations and houses of worship are critical to this work, and CPJ is invested in inspiring and equipping such institutions to be a part of transforming juvenile probation in their own communities. For this CPJ Juvenile Probation Transformation Instagram Live series and upcoming virtual convening, we are honing in on and highlighting the stories, perspectives, and voices of faith and community leaders who are doing impactful diversion work with youth across the country. Diversion, or the act of diverting, is simply put providing opportunities for youth to have alternatives to experiencing the embarrassment and criminalization of court trials, incarceration, and probation, and also providing direct services such as mental health supports, mentoring, goal setting, and job training opportunities to youth and their families to help youth positively change the trajectory of their lives. So thank you for joining us. Today, our esteemed guest is Reverend Maurice Winley, aka Reverend Mo. He is the founder and executive director of Living Redemption Youth Opportunity Hub, and he is also the associate pastor of Saving Souls Station in Harlem, New York. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Reverend Mo to the floor. I'm so excited, you all. There he is.
How are you?
Hello, Reverend Mo. We're seeing you from a different angle.
Okay, so let me rectify that.
Nice. I love the bookshelf.
Okay.
How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing well, Yasmin. Thank you for inviting me to this platform, and definitely looking forward to our conversation.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's just jump right in.
Yes.
Please share your story with us. Where are you from? If you could share some of how you grew up and some of the various ways that you've been directly impacted by the justice and carceral systems.
Sure. I grew up in Jamaica, Queens. That's my hometown. And went to school in Harlem, in a school that was founded by my grandfather from preschool to eighth grade, and my family was in Harlem. In fact, my grandfather, when he migrated from the South, housing development, Lincoln houses, where he moved in, family of 16, my grandfather had. So again, I guess I have two homes in that sense, in terms of, like I stated, Jamaica, Queens, and also Harlem, being that I went to school there, as well as my church being there. So, Harlem is like my second home. And so for me growing up, like I stated, I had the privilege of being, in a Christian school, in a Christian home environment, with values, etc. When I was in high school, after completing graduated as a valedictorian out of my junior high school, and went to Jamaica High School, and was accepted into what the program was called, Gateway to Medicine. And so
Mm-hmm.
preparing you for a medical career. And was there, this is in 1989, really at the peak of the crack cocaine epidemic that began to ravage our communities. And so I can remember being in homeroom, and a shot rang out. A student was killed right there in the auditorium, in the homeroom. And the fear that gripped me that day, because it could have been any one of us. And to just see that type of violence, never at that point in my development, have never seen that type of violence up front. And it affected me. I didn't want to be that person, and so I began to, what I say, I donned a mask. I made a decision that I'm not going to be a prey. I'm not going to be a victim of that. And really, instead of taking advantage of all the numerous opportunities to attend top colleges, universities across the country, and pursue this field in medicine. Instead, I enrolled in what I call street university,
Mm.
and so yeah, that's how I grew up. Again, I grew up with a strong family. Like I said, having 10 uncles and 5 aunts, family, cousins coming into, it was almost like family was. It's like going to Thanksgiving was like going to Disney World. So, but like I said, in that context, and then also it was the fear factor, but it was also the belonging. It was also the attraction to power, because you saw how those who were affiliated with street crews in my generation, we weren't into Bloods and Crips, and it was just about crews and affiliations from neighborhoods. And there was a lot of mutual respect, because it was really a lot about making money. But with that, you saw those that were involved, the type of prestige they carried coming into the school, and you wanted a part of it. You wanted to be a part of that, and so that was part of what I called. And so I enrolled. I hid my genius and enrolled, put on this mask,
Mm.
enrolled in Street University, and majored and mastered in many courses through the way.
Thank you for that, Reverend Mo. Thank you for that. Um, so just, and I know that was a very nice overview, but I know there are lots of nuances throughout your journey and story. When
Yeah, I forgot to mention, because you did ask about how I was directly impacted. And so speak to that briefly, if you don't mind. Again,
Absolutely.
when I grew up, like I said, or began to graduate, Rikers Island was our first stop. At that time, it was called C-74, Adolescents at War. It was really the place you did not want to be. And so I spent a number of instances there, and was ultimately sentenced in 1991 to do time in the state system. And so having experienced that, I was 17 years old. I was in a Supermax downstate facility. At that time was a reception, because I just turned 17. It was an adult reception, and so I was sent there instead of the adolescent reception. And so just seeing, as I reflect now, just that experience, to see, thousands of men in chains, to be walking in silence. The whole bus ride is silence. To then be shaven, to have to go through the whole processing of just really being demasculated, in terms of just your control and your rights. And again, I made decisions, I made choices, but I'm talking about really the experience. It felt like slavery. It felt a little bit more than consequences for actions. And I'm big on personal responsibility. So yeah, it was a very, very shocking, Rikers Island was just filled with violence, corruption. COs would allow us to fight every day.
Mm.
Of cutting. It was allowed. You would just choose. It was almost like a Spartan gladiator reading. You would just choose whoever you had a problem with. I know what it is to experience being beaten by COs. And so, yeah, violence it's just the norm. It just, every day it just becomes the norm. It's not even, you almost become desensitized to it. Upstate, in the correctional facility, that's when I really got exposed to extreme racism. I should say, I can remember seeing officers with tattoos of black babies hanging, and just how that marked, what that instilled in you, in terms of how you view this time of rehabilitation.
Mm. Mm. Thank you for sharing, Reverend Mo. I appreciate that. Um, when and if we have to, because I know this question is kind of jumping kind of ahead, but when was the moment, or at what point did you realize that you wanted a different outcome for your life, and other young people who grow up, who are growing up and grew up where you grew up, and where from Harlem and in New York? What was, when did you have this, revelation or epiphany, this on along in your journey?
Yeah, coming home, and the reason why I shared a lot of that context and backdrop, because you know, came home very angry, um, blaming the system, blaming my white brothers and sisters, really not taking responsibility for my choices and actions at that time. I was given an opportunity to uh, help run while I was away. I've always liked business. And while I was even incarcerated, I took some small business courses. My aunt was starting a new CD retail venture. And while I was on work release, she reached out to me, saying when I don't come and help them. They were operating two CD retail operations, one in Harlem, right across the street from the Apollo Theater in the Mart 125, and the other one was downtown on Duane, on Church Street between Duane and Reed. And so that was a key moment in terms of her and her husband extending that opportunity for me, because obviously returning home is very pivotal, and so being able to be engaged in that. But during the course of that, like I said, you're free, but you're not redeemed, you're not
Mm.
formed. And so those old ways, those old modalities, those old paradigms, that old mindset was still present. And so, you're dibbing and you're dabbing in various things. And so an altercation occurred where a gentleman tried to rob us at our downtown location. We got into a physical altercation, and he perished. And because of my background, as a violent predicate, when I was 16, I was, a series of armed robberies that I was involved with, and so that background, I'm being treated as a violent predicate. Um, Basically, the offer was 10 to life to cop out. Um, or if I went to trial, I would get a minimum of 15 to life or a maximum of 25 to life. And so, the case went over my head. It lasted for a year. Um, a powerful time of self reflection. What was key, because at that time, again, with the mindset I had, there was a video confession that was made. And so the mindset was really focused on that video confession or the person who snitched.
Mm,
Um, and my energies and my focus was really on that individual, to be quite frank. It wasn't even about the situation. It was really just, in my mind, the violation
mm,
of that breach of covenant, a breach of trust that I was accustomed to operating in. And very powerful occurrence took place where when I was at court, my lawyer told me, do not turn around because the deceased mother is behind you. And, I turned around and she stated, why did you kill my son? And very powerful, at that moment, because like I said, at that moment, I was really focusing on myself.
mm,
I never even reflected on the brother. Um, Unfortunately, through Street University, uh, your conscience can become seared and you can become cold, uh,
mm,
sociopathic in a way, where you can just really be detached from the things that you do and the consequences it brings on. And at that moment, I experienced like just this overwhelming sense of guilt and shame and the need to be forgiven. That mother's words pierced me, and it really evoked a powerful awakening. I reflected on so many other situations, and all I wanted to do was be forgiven. I came to church not to get a get out of jail free card, but to really experience freedom, to experience forgiveness, to experience forgiveness that I knew that could only come from God. And I came to the altar weeping like a baby. Can't remember the last time I had cried like that all those years. Again, operating in this very cold, desensitized paradigm, and it was very cathartic. Um, I had to go jury to again, because when the mother presented herself, the DA took a very aggressive posture with the case, and we had to go in front of the grand jury to testify. And went in front of the grand jury. The DA painted at that time really painted a very horrific picture. Me being an aggressor. And I just shared with them honestly that listen, I have to live with that choice that I made, and those words of that mother. Because a lot of times when you're in that life, you don't have to face people after you've done things. You follow
mm,
me? Bury it. And but that was a very powerful experience to hear those mother's words. And I shared with them how it affected me. And I told them if I was given a second chance, that I would dedicate my life to not see other young men and women come down this path. And by the time I got home, I remember coming into the door. Uh, we had an answer service, so I'm dating myself. Uh, but the lawyer was screaming on the answer service that they had threw the case out.
mm,
That this came out of a crisis. I'll never forget the prayer that my father prayed over me. Um, when I was going to that grand jury, it's the scariest prayer I probably heard in my life, and one of the shortest ones. And he said, "God judges heart." And
mm, mm.
went there. It was under that. So, like I said, it was a profound place of introspection and understanding the need for radical changing of thinking, what we speak to as biblically called repentance.
Absolutely. Mm, wow. That's just so powerful. Absolutely powerful story. And it's just amazing to see that all of these years later you still kept true to that vow. It's really just phenomenal. And I thank God for that redemption, for the deliverance, like you said, you know, be walking under a certain mindset and a certain paradigm, and just, I mean, there's like this just is, it's so much in what you've shared. It's just really just truly phenomenal. Um, so you've touched on this some, but if you could just go just a little deeper, Reverend Mo, how does your faith shape your perspective, and why you do this work?
Yes. Well, God, is, listen, first of all, it's out of gratitude. Um, you know, I'm supposed to be dead or doing life in prison.
Mm,
That's just the reality. Um, and so it's out of gratitude, that you've given this opportunity. So for me, all of that expresses itself just serving, serving. It's you know redemption for me. It's about, I always talk about the three A's: alienation, and that's why what we do is deeply relational. When we're talking about relationships, we realize that the primary cause of what we see in society, youth, families, communities, is the disconnect from God, that relationship that has been lost, and
mm,
led us into a state of perpetual affliction, self-inflicted, uh, family inflicted, where we see families themselves not able to properly relate to one another, community strife. And we can name it every societal disorder, every dysfunction, disease and disorder comes and stems from that disconnection with the Father, with the Creator. And the only cure is a relational cure. And that cure is redemption, because God deals with uh, forgiveness. He deals with our guilt. He deals with our shame. He purchased us. And part of redemption, there's a ransom, there's a price that's paid. Any type of reconciliation, any transformation, there's a price that has to be paid. And so I'm grateful Jesus paid the price for me. And so out of that, again, you have this alienation, this affliction, you have adoption. And so being brought into a family. So for us at Living Redemption, when we say saving lives and healing communities one relationship at a time, that relational, those relational dysfunctions that we see, fatherlessness is a wonderful example of that, in terms of what you see in the natural and the trajectories for children who come out of fatherless homes. How much more when we are disconnected from our spiritual and our health?
mm,
And so that's the lens we work. And so I'm grateful. I've had the privilege of, I'm a third generation pastor. Like I shared about my grandfather. My father's my hero. He's my role model. He's my mentor. He's my coach. And he never gave up on me. He's seen me in my worst, in my
mm,
and it shows me he embodied how God the Father stands next to us as His children. And so for that, it's that gratitude, but it's also it's also a sense of heritage and responsibility. Like I said, operating out of the Soul Saving Station for Every Nation, that's in the heart of Harlem since 1942. Always been involved at the forefront of missional engagement in the community. I remember, when heroin was the major crisis at the time, the church and the lower level was a shelter for women who were going cold turkey and trying to escape from prostitution.
wow.
Our church, so, and like I talked about the school, which was cutting edge, and closed during 2006 with the influx of charter schools, but a
Mm,
type of deep missional foundations that's a part of my DNA. And like I said, coming from our founder was on the FBI's most wanted list, escaped from the Georgia chain gang, and was about to commit suicide. but he had his epiphany moment when a group of missionaries found him and offered him something to eat. And he was able to reconnect with God and transform and move out of that place of affliction into his place of adoption and to bring others into the family. And so that's what we're about. We want those who have experienced the ravages of sin, and we can talk about that in another vernacular. That could be trauma, that could be carceral, um, urban trauma, family disruption, however you want to describe it. It's all a consequence of sin, and bringing them into right relationship um, to the Father. And so I'm grateful. Everything I am, everything I will do is because of my relationship with God.
Mm. Living Redemption. Why that name? Why? I mean, there's the obvious connection of this redemption and the redeeming, of, as you mentioned, that a price for the transformation and the adoption, and all the price has to be paid, right? And Jesus paid that price, right? But why, how did you come up with the name Living Redemption? What does that mean to you and all?
Yes. The name came. I was in a prayer meeting with one of our deep partners, the Navigators. We were at a prayer meeting, and they were praying for the different individuals in the meeting, and so we were all had the opportunity to kind of quote unquote be in the hot seat. And so, there would be a chair, and then everybody would just kind of pray and speak over the individuals' lives. And when I came, one of the utterances that was stated, they was like, "You are walking redemption. You are
Mm,
living redemption," and it's just really bore witness in my spirit. And so from that time, so for living redemption, so again, just giving you that context that it was in a time of a very sacred time of prayer when that came forth. And for me, it became really a theme for my life. I'm living free. Free from sin, free from all of the guilt and the shame of my past. I'm living full. Jesus came so that we might have the abundant life, and so I want to live full. And so
mhm,
that sometimes we unfortunately dichotomize the spiritual from the natural. I believe in a very integrated, a holistic approach. And so I'm going to live full in my marriage and my family. I'm going to live full in my health and my mental and emotional well-being. I'm going to live full financially. I'm going to be able to be a place of abundance, an oasis, an oak where others can benefit from the peace, from the grace that God has bestowed upon my life. And so generosity and impact and leading others through transformation, leading them through the healing process, which is not easy because there's pain and healing. And so just being able to unpack and give back all that I have received from the Lord, infuse it in others, and that's what I'm committed to. Just telling a story that's genuine, telling a story that is authentic, and that points people to their Maker.
mm, 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 mm. There's so many sermons in this, and just you sharing and testifying, about your journey, about your life, and woo, it's powerful. It's powerful. Um, Reverend Mo, can you take us through so community connections for youth? How did you get connected? How did you learn about community? How did you get connected with Ruben and your work there? And then this sort of transition to you spreading your wings and soaring as an eagle, and taking Living Redemption off, and springing and all. Can you just kind of take us through that journey also?
Sure, Ruben, Austria, a godsend. I remember, uh, well, I met him, in the context of Arches, Arches Transformative Mentoring, which is funded by the New York City Department of Probation. It was launched under the Young Men's Initiative that was funded by Mayor Bloomberg and the Soros Foundation. And Community Connections for Youth was the training and technical assistance provider for archers. And so, but I've always heard about Ruben through mutual friends. But that's when we really were able to kind of connect around a project. I remember really getting bored. When I say bored, for me is wanting to do more. That's what bored means for me.
Mm-hmm.
More. And I reached out to him, sharing the tensions I was wrestling with internally, which is growth. Anytime there's growth, there's going to be a great internal struggle. And so he was like, well, look, we have some opportunities, because at that time our program, God had favored us where our site was named as the top site in the city out of 16 providers. And so he said, well, look, why don't you develop a curriculum to coach and guide other directors in some of your approaches. And so that was very powerful, transformative, elevating, because sometimes we can, particularly those that are coming out of carceral systems, many times you're wrestling with the devastation of insignificance, particularly as you're repairing a broken world, right? Your broken world. So you're coming, there's insecurities. You're not seeing the value of all that you do and all you can be. And so this was very illuminating to have the opportunity to build out this type of manual, if you will. And then we began training. He was like, look, I got an opportunity to go out to Chicago. I want you to come. Again, huge door opener. And I've yet to run into a leader that is willing to share their platform in the manner in which Ruben has. And without insecurity, speaking to your unique contribution, affirming your call fully. And so, coming out there, went out to Chicago. And so that just really germinated to just going around the country, doing trainings, ultimately coming on board as the director of Credible Messenger Mentoring for Community Connections for Youth to continue developing curriculum and also supervising their suite of Credible Messenger programs. The beauty of it and how God favored me, that the organizations involved, they didn't tell me I had to leave my work. They didn't have a problem with me continuing to operate arches and next steps and so just beautiful. So you really, God really gave you faithful in a few things, you're going to be faithful in more. You have one program, now you have 3 programs. We developed, we co-created what's called a Credible Messenger Boot Camp. Ruben, myself, and Belinda, who was the training director for CCFY. And it just was a powerful time. We had the opportunity to go down to Washington, D.C. to be a part of them launching their Credible Messenger Initiative. And this is in conjunction with the Department of Youth Rehabilitation Services. Clinton Lacey, who is another father, mentor, coach in the field, in the work, and particularly of originating the Credible Messenger movement around this country, a key catalyst. And so that's really where I work. And when the Youth Opportunity Hub grant came, and I'm reading this grant, you had the opportunity, you was asked to be in an interview to talk about it. And, basically the question that was asked, if money wasn't an option, what would you do to prevent young people from entering the criminal justice system? And, I remember just, sharing my heart. And so to see an RFP form to see a funding opportunity for everything you just kind of spewed out of your heart, it's like, this is for me. That, and I came to Ruben because at that time we weren't an organization. We were just, program and project implementers, very seasoned, obviously. I said, would you be willing to co-sponsor this so we can apply for this? And he told me, absolutely, man. This is ordained for you. Really just immediately, no hesitation, just affirmed it. And it was like, we don't have connections to Harlem. You really have to, this is you. This is going to be, in other words, you're going to have to run this. I don't got the bandwidth for the staff, and I'm fine because that's what I was looking to do. And so, 2017, we wrote the response. We were really like the David on the field of Goliaths because you had all these major, nonprofit organizations, going and competing. You're going to these meetings and you're seeing who's at the table. They're there with these circles. You're in the room as just one or two of you.
Mm.
They got 15 at their table processing. And so, but I'll never forget it. The day we submitted the proposal, we submitted our proposal at 11:59. It was due at 12 p.m. And we got it all in. I mean, we was working. Working. And when we left the building, it was a torrential downpour. It was just a torrential downpour. I'll never forget it. I mean, just like out of nowhere, just a torrential downpour. And to make a long story short, in 2017, we was awarded with that Youth Opportunity Hub grant for 10.6. It was, like I said, it blew my mind. You're talking about an individual for most of their career who's done this work as a volunteer. And like I said, it just really blew our mind that God would see fit to deposit such an investment through the Youth Opportunity Hub. We quickly organized, and the whole philosophy, like I mentioned, that live free, that live full, leave a legacy, but also that saving lives, healing communities, one relationship at a time, really building an ecosystem of academic, business, system, churches, CBOs, building this hyper-local network in Central and West Harlem to be able to provide a comprehensive suite of services, opportunities, support from the young people, all driven by the individual's needs as they perceive them, and also with feedback, creating this plan that we can incentivize to kind of move them forward in their journey of transformation and healing. And through the hub, it started in 2017. The grant officially ended actually last June. We've served over 856 young people with this model. And that's when I say young people, between the ages of 10 to 24. And this is all with credible messengers doing grassroots outreach. We really didn't rely on a lot of websites. In fact, we still are getting ours updated. It was always beat foot to the ground and word of mouth. The young people bringing their friends, and that's how it really still operates to this day. And so we operate a number of programs just under the Youth Opportunity Hub.
Mm-hmm.
We launched a female-focused transformative experience called Sister Saving Souls, and this was launched by one of our former Arches participants. This is a person who completed Arches, which is a probation mentoring program, 9 months, where it's a group mentoring process where they receive stipends, and it's all around focusing on your individual change, your individual change plan. And her name Bakiba, she's a daughter, spiritual daughter, very powerful. And so many of the initiatives they're being curated from the unique experiences of the Credible Messages. We believe that Credible Messages are not only individuals who were once destructive mechanisms in the community. You did 25 years, you ran blocks, you was a shot caller. We broadened it to really focus on those who have overcome pain, deep trauma, deep disappointments, who have a curriculum. You are a roadmap. You are a vaccination that can heal, that can guide, that can transform others. And so guiding mentors and our team to help take their ideas and to develop proposals. Again, we've partnered, GED. I mean, you figure technology, workforce development. you name it, it's available. But one of the things we avoid is following prescriptive models.
Mm.
A lot of times, this we really our programs and offerings are always shaped by what's needed. It's what's needed. I try to embody what I call an arms approach to our work, and the A is for authentic relationships, and we spoke on that. But the R is for relevant instruction. You got to meet people where they are, not where you think they are, what you think they need.
Mm-hmm.
So, what that means is if we see a lot of young people who don't have GED and they're motivated to pursue that, then that's what we're going to bring and make sure that that's available. If we see there's opportunities and there's a need for OSHA training, you follow me? Computer training, you follow me? So our
Yeah.
plans are shaped based on those needs assessments, which are always dynamic on an individual and a collective basis, collating them along the cohort, getting feedback. And like I said, we've partnered with Columbia University, City College, the 125th Street Business Improvement District. That's every business owner and operator on going from Fifth Avenue to West End. So we believe that's kingdom. That's kingdom. And as you alluded, I might be going ahead, so I'll stop and let
No,
you.
no, keep it going.
Yeah, but kingdom and engaging, bringing service and excellence and impact and intentionality and innovation. What that brings, right? And one of the marks of the Holy Spirit on the early church was the ability that he gave those gathered in Jerusalem, the ability to communicate the wonderful works of God in various languages. And so we see business is as a sector, it's a people, it has a language, psychology, education, academia, right? And so as kingdom ambassadors, being able to function and cross connect and collaborate with that broad ecosystem of partners, and at the same time not losing or diluting who you are as a believer, as a Christian. So when we talk about credible messengers, for me, it's on multiple levels, because the main person I want to be a credible messenger for is for my Lord and Savior. It's for my Father, and I want to shine as a son, and how we shine is by doing good works, and that gives us credibility to plant the seed gospel.
Mm. Amen. For the young people that you serve and over the years, what are some of the various ways that and I know you mentioned that it's often one of your young participants bringing their friends along. What are some of the other ways that young people are referred to Live in Redemption?
Yes, we have a number of system partners. One of our primary partners has been the New York City Department of Probation.
Mm-hmm.
So we run two initiatives with them. Arches, we've been operating that since 2012. And young people who are on probation, 16 to 24 years old, they are referred to us directly from the probation, where we connect with them, because obviously, you can imagine some of the dynamics of a young person who's on probation being referred to a program by a probation officer, right? And so being able to really break that ice, those tensions, we're not here to monitor you. We're here to come alongside you and support you on your journey. And so we've been operating that since 2012. We also have what's called Next Steps. This is another Department of Probation funded program. It takes that same model of transformative mentoring that meets twice a week with group mentors, and then they are matched to a mentor who they can meet with one-on-one. They receive incentives, and again, once we're working on their individual change plan, they're exposed to a number of other opportunities around education, around jobs. But again, the goal is really about strengthening attachment to community, strengthening attachment to family, And the main thing is that, there's no cutoff time. These programs have their dosage period, 9 months, but we commitment to all of them that we're here for the lifetime. And so that program operating in St. Nicholas and St. Nicholas houses two of our leaders in our work, beloved Dietrich Hammond and Doran Reality Hammond, two brothers who were born and raised in St. Nicholas, credible messengers. They lead that work in St. Nicholas. And so those referrals are really just by messages going in to do aggressive outreach and pulling them into it, so there's no formal referral path in that sense. District attorney, because of our relationship, there was always a number of takedowns in the community, around gang violence and situations. And we said, with this intelligence that you have, and what would it look like to be preemptive in regards to interventions? Is there a way where we could see if we can do some outreach and intervention before you have these families, just being broken up? Particularly, there was a major takedown, I think, in 2014, two Holland Developments, Grant and Manhattanville houses, 2.5 year cycle of violence that ensued, and it culminated with 103 young men being taken out of the community at one time. And again, that's the context of saying, is there something we can do when you think about the vast amount of resources that are invested into investigations and collecting data for conspiracies? What it would look like if we could use some of that data and give it in ways that does not compromise our relationship to the community, particularly in dealing with the district attorney's office. And so, again, that's through trust and that's through partnership. So that's another program that we operate. But most of our programs at this point are voluntary. They are voluntary in terms of the referrals. Only those probation, that Arches is really the only program right now where we actually are getting like a referral. And even that is not a mandated referral, it's a soft referral. But all of the youth that come into our program doors is really through the outreach, the events, and through the relationships that's fostered, word of mouth, coming into the communities. And like I said, we have a T-shirt. We piloted this last year, a T-shirt entrepreneurship program. 5 young people was paid part-time to go through a process. We brought in Kyrie Chapman. He already ran a T-shirt business, and so he mentored and coached them through the process of not just the skills of creating T-shirts, but more importantly, what it takes to run a business, LLC. And so, that's part of our mission in terms of economic development, business development. I believe that God, in this day and age, there's multiple ways for us to mobilize our mission, to sustain our mission. It should not just be exclusively on donations. We can start businesses. Entrepreneurship, for me, I consider myself a serial entrepreneur. And when you think about the personal attributes of an entrepreneur in terms of the mindset, this is the type of fortitude and attitude that you want to instill in young people in this journey, And so through the pandemic, we served over 25,000 families. A pop-up open air pantry that we did in partnership with probation. We had many of our young people through our various program centers serving. And so they really had a contribution. What the Bible says is better to give and receive. And it's nothing more transformative in your life when you become a vessel of love and when you see yourself. And that's the part of the vision, right? We don't want just young people to be recipients. They are producers. And so to see them in those positions, like I mentioned with Makiba, to see somebody coming full circle, even now there's other young people, and I believe there's going to be a great number of young people that the Lord has blessed us to touch. Not only myself, but I'm talking about the Soul Saving Station has touched many young people's lives, and this will be a platform to catalyze and for them to really experience their fulfillment, because there's no fulfillment like doing what you've been called and purposed to do. There's a lot of jobs we have to do. There's a lot of things that we have to do to get there. but I can say I'm in the place of fulfillment, and many others will find fulfillment as God continues to expand this footprint that He's in. And so, yeah, I mean, life coaching we have, and so now, like I mentioned, the funding for the Hub Opportunity Grant, and and the COVID was a really challenging time. You follow me in terms of worrying about the safety. All the staff were committed to serving, and I believe God honored that. And so even though we were notified during COVID that our funding was over, whatever God starts, He's going to continue.
Mm-hmm.
So it really was a test of our faith. There was some pruning, and that was, I didn't even realize that God, I was just meditating on that, pruning and become fruitful, John 14, and 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 there was a lot of pruning that we had to go through, but through that, I believe God has put us into a more fruitful place. So right now we're in the process. We always operate under these three pillars, being youth centered, family focused, and community driven. And so, I kind of shared in terms of some of the initiatives we have under the youth umbrella, but now we're moving into this family focus, and so we're in the process now of launching a family enrichment center that will serve. It'll be like a drop-in. It'll be a separate location than where we are now, because really, to be quite frank, we can't really accommodate all that is in the current portfolio at the current site.
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking for something that's in close proximity. It'll be in Central Harlem, ideally. It'll be a drop-in center, co-created, co-designed by the families from the community, where they will design the offerings. There'll be a parent advisory council where those family members are contributing. So it's all family-led. Again, we're not prescriptive. This is going to be in partnership with ACS, the Administration for Children's Services. And again, we're excited about it. We're launching that. And so you have also, under this family focus, we have a youth services coordination project where the Mayor's Office of Criminal Justice has approached us to uh, help pilot out this project that will work with young people who are what we call multi-system involved, that are in crisis, and their families. And that's something that a lot of times, a lot of programs, particularly, they're prescriptive and they only focus on the young people. I've always believed you can't really help young people if you're not addressing the family environment, right? Again, it's that holistic integrationist approach. So many times we try to compartmentalize rather than integrate. And with that being said, we've been asked to be the Manhattan provider, and along with two other providers for Brooklyn and the Bronx, where we'll collectively serve 100 families. Uh,
Right.
they're coming from some select housing development areas in the community. So this will cause us to do some expansion out of our current Harlem comfort zone to the Lower East Side. And so we're going to be exploring some potential partnerships down there where we'll house staff to serve those families. So this is an expansion. And then we have uh, NSTAT, which is, and this is out of the Office of Neighborhood Safety, and this scaffolds to the work that's going on in St. Nicholas houses,
Mm-hmm.
where now we're going to be working with adults to form a resident advisory council to really deal with quality of life, public safety issues. A lot of times public safety is really defined by elected, but we really need a paradigm where we're dealing with community-driven public safety. How an elected or business will define public safety is different from how a community member will define public safety. And so to have this opportunity to organize residents, they'll be paid a stipend, training, to interface, first of all, on a local level where they can mobilize in their neighborhood and be resourced, find resources to do resident-led initiatives around quality of life, public safety, fostering that ownership. Because many times you find in these house developments, they have community centers, they have plant resources, but there's some type of outside organization operating them, really not even including those who live there in the
Wow.
coordination. And
Mhm.
so really integrating the voice of those who live there, training them where they can take on these positions and
Yes.
serve themselves, right? And so we're just coming as a servant. We're just coming to be a conduit, a facilitator. And at the same time, they will also have the opportunity to interface on a higher level with the mayor's office of criminal justice, the MAP, mayor's office plan, and all of the affiliated agencies. And so it gives them an opportunity to kind of move things forward. We know that nothing is a silver bullet, but we're grateful whenever we can operate in those spaces. So you have that. We have also, we're going to be launching, we're going to become a site for providing family functional therapy. As we talked about, many of the problems that we see are facing, I feel that there's a powerful disintegration of family that we see when you talk about carceral state. That has been one of the key drivers to incarceration. Fatherlessness is listed as a key predictive factor when
Mhm.
it comes to fatherlessness. And so it's not just fathers, single mothers, just the families are in crisis. And so to be able to really come in and to do some work around family, right? And this is not, we talk about mental health, all these stigmas. Everybody got challenges. Everybody have mental health challenges because we all are thinkers, and we all are living in this brief moment we call life, and we all experience stress. We all experience anxiety. So we really need and some of us are dealing at different stages and different levels. So mental health, we should be able to accept that the same way we accept heart health. Uh,
Mhm.
it's who we are, and it's an integral part. But family therapy, like I said, we know what it is, and so we're grateful. We'll start off with bringing on a program director and 3 therapists, and then we will be able to have the opportunity to bring on up to 5 therapists. And this is a key component to integrate because, like I stated, the tremendous job that the CM teams are able to do in terms of outreach and bringing the young people in, and we're able to connect them to a number of post-secondary education opportunities based on their needs and interests. Obviously, technology is another key center in terms of I find, many of our young people are using technology purely from an entertainment standpoint and have not tapped into using it from a producer standpoint.
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
that's part of our strategy to really do some things, and at a later time, I'll be able to announce something I can't announce right now. But there's some things that we're working on significantly around technology. But with that being said, going back to the family focus, um, you know, just being able to integrate therapists into our array is going to be very critical.
Absolutely.
I think, and I was alluding to it, I think there's been a lot of stigmas around therapy. I think everybody have an opportunity to talk to someone who can give objective feedback about a situation that's healthy. It releases stress and anxiety at the various forms. So we're grateful for adding that. So there's a lot of growth. And I think one of the challenges that you have with this, because there's challenges and there's rewards. And I would say the greatest reward is seeing an individual, a youth that you have tried to invest in their life. Because when you're working with youth, you're not going to really see the full manifestation. It might not be to 10 or 15 years.
Mm.
You have to really have the long view. A lot of these programs, they have 9 months, a year. So that's a challenge, right? It might take a year just to really get to know that young, build trust. And again, So for me, for me personally, the reward is to see uh, that person really producing a healthy family. You follow me? Walking with God, having children, and so that's the reward. But I mean, in the long term, and understanding that's the goal. But seeing, being able to touch somebody's life, to be able to come in a time of crisis, a time of pain, and a time of disillusionment, and to be able to just bring light and hope and focus to move them forward. That is my reward. That is my paycheck. That is my missional fulfillment. To see that shift in the mindset, that shift in their heart from I can't do to I will do,
Mm,
and so that for me, the challenge is also, um, like I mentioned, the challenge in terms of just duration, really understanding the nature of this work. This is generational work. This is not 9-month work. It took generations for us to arrive to where we are. How do you think that you're going to be able to shift change, within 9 months? How do you think you're going to shift change during a political cycle?
mm,
Uh, where there's no continuity. And so, with that being said, one of the challenges for us, I mentioned all these numerous opportunities, but these are all government reimbursable contracts. So, as a newly formed grassroots organization, to have the working capital, you follow me? We have the know-how in terms of implementing, because that's why they come and they sort us out for these. So that's a challenge, right? In terms of just the funding, sustainability, and also, like I mentioned, how priorities can shift so quickly with political cycles and political agendas. How
mm,
how one thing was, to me, youth should is an eternal priority. It never becomes. It's always a priority. Youth and children and what we do for them. And so when you see agendas and political agendas sometimes mixing, and now not wanting to continue something because I didn't originate it, that's
mm,
a real challenge. On a personal level for me, those are some organizational macro challenge. On a personal level, um, I mentioned the rewards. For me, it's when you've invested, um, and there's how about I say? I'm trying to think of the right way to say it. No gratitude. In other words, the challenge of continue to give when there's no acknowledgement of what's given.
mhm,
On a personal level, that's something, and where I go to with that challenge is then who are you doing this for? And and that's when I go back to that place of gratitude, that reservoir of gratitude, and going back to that place of redemption.
mm. Thank you, Reverend Mo. You answered all the questions, so you made my job easy today. My last and final question is, what advice do you have for folks who may want, they could be faith-based leaders, um, or just community members, what like community members that aren't necessarily associated with or have membership of a church, that kind of thing, government workers, what is your advice for folks who want to get involved with youth justice and families work, and also with Living Redemption? How can people get connected and be helpful?
Yeah, yeah, great question. For me, it's always been serving. I think the serving is the greatest. Your gift will make room for you. So, sir, get involved. Like I told you, out of my 25 years of trying to work with youth, 10 of those years was purely as a volunteer, you know, Sunday school, youth minister, youth pastor, youth count. You follow me?
Yes.
um, Particularly in the criminal justice space or youth justice space, going into juvenile detention centers, speaking, volunteering, being involved with projects. And from that, you know, a lot of appointments and calls came, you know, and I think that you just have to get out there. A lot of times I think we start, you know, from a funding standpoint, start from a service standpoint. Where can we serve? You know, based on where you know, what do you have a passion for? Where is there a burden? Everybody can't do the same thing. What is your unique contribution to the church? Know what's going on. Exegete your community. Know what's going on in the community. Know what the pressing issues are. Look at how put you as a body. Look at not just as a church, but even through your relationships of churches and other organizations. And what can we really do that's intentional, that's innovative, that's impactful, and you know, and serve, you know, and like I said, our church, you know, the food pantry is the manifestation of one of those, and then you know, see how you can build relationships. You follow me? A lot of times I feel that you know we're so quick to want to share the gospel, but when we look at how Jesus shared the gospel, he took 3 years to reveal himself to the disciples. So what are we doing? What are we doing? You know, build relationships. Take the time to really cultivate and embed yourself in people's lives. You know, have some food. Food is a centerpiece of having a meal, hospitality, having hot food together. That's part of our culture because a lot of healing can take place at the table. A lot of problems too if we're not careful, but a lot of healing can take place at the table. And so that those type of just, you know, what are some intentional relational engagement actions that we can take? I find working with government, we have to be careful about old archetypes of how we view government. I know that, you know, many might view government, you know, we have to take what I call a Daniel posture. We are in Babylon, you know, spiritually speaking. We see that in terms of a lot of policies that are unbiblical.
Mm.
But how do you operate in that? And Daniel, to me, stands out as an excellent archetype for leadership, for servants. First of all, it was integrity. Integrity. The other was excellence. He was excellent, and he was a servant. He was a servant, and it came to him also because of the revelations. He was able to solve problems. He was able to solve problems, and so what revelation, you know, when it comes to the situations with the young people, get involved with youth justice. Get involved. The centers, they're always looking for mentors. They're always looking for individuals to come in. Some
Mm.
and develop your credibility. Develop your credibility. You follow me? And then let God do the rest. You know, let God do the rest. But it's a field with no boundaries. It's plenteous. There's few laborers, and just really take the time to learn. Like I said, you know, again, we even at the church, we're prescriptive. You follow me? You know, people came with specific requests to Jesus to touch. You follow me? There's, you know, and we got to be willing to take the roof off of, you know, it's not just one way to Jesus.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That can be, it could be through a vocational program and discovering yourself. That's how I look at. I look at all these initiatives. I look at all of this as part of launching out into the deep and casting the net on the other side.
Mm.
Sunday morning, I've done all of those traditional church models, and I'm not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, but I'm saying I've done that all my life, and I've seen that all my life. Now it's time to cast the net on the other side. You know, I heard a statement from a bishop, Michael Carrion, where he was talking about, when they're talking about missional paradigms, he was talking about prophetic proximity and how Jesus entered into the problem space of those that he was trying to reach. And when you think about that, that's what living redemption is about: going where the pain is, going where, and even within systems. And I find that we can don't become what has hurt you. And so we know that systems have been uh, powerful vehicles to sustain oppression through their policies, and I would say they've been sinful. They've been infected, but there's a remnant. There's individuals in those systems that are working, and so we have to dispel a lot of our stereotypes. Just like we don't want to be stereotyped or prejudiced or biased, you have to make sure that you're not bringing that when working with a system. And I've discovered with all the systems that we work in, there are champions, there are individuals in there swimming underwater, trying to fulfill a mission that's really aligned. And many of the systems, they're dealing with the generational reputation. It may not be what the leaders right at that particular moment represent, but because of it's an opportunity to really engage, and we're grateful for all of they are our system partners, and because of the trust, because of the excellence, because of the integrity, beyond the funding, there's deep and meaningful relationships you have cultivated with individuals and key positions, and so you're able to influence on a whole nother level of advocacy and reform and perspective and paradigm and praxis. So it's a tremendous opportunity to serve, get active, and like I said, the needs are great. The needs are great.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, Reverend Mo. We could talk for hours, I know, but I'm just so grateful for you just taking some time to share some of your personal journey and testimony with us, and your faith, your perspective, the work of living redemption, the work and all the various programs and services you provide to young people and their families, how God is enlarging your territory, how your work is expanding, not only successes but challenges, and also help breaking down this barrier and taboo and stigma around mental health. And also, working and partnering civically, partnering with government. I mean, you took us through a lot of terrain, and we're extremely grateful. Extremely grateful. This will not be the last time, and we look forward to having you also, hopefully, at the convening in October, to share with even more faith leaders who really want to hear from you and learn from you. So just I pray God's continuous blessings and, of course, protection, grace, mercy, favor, and all of that over you, all over the credible messengers, your volunteers, your staff members, credible messengers, all of the young people and families you're working with, you will work with, and we're just grateful to know you, to be connected to you. And if there's any way that we can be a build on, and also support in any way that we can, please let us know.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Yasmin. Thank you for your time, for extending this invitation to share a little bit about what God has been doing. We're grateful and grateful for connecting with you personally, and looking forward to continue to build our relationship and what God has for us in store.
Absolutely. Absolutely. God bless you, Reverend. Thank you. Yes, powerful. It was powerful. Yes, and we could sum it up in one word. Thank you, Deborah. Thank you all so much for joining us. Wow. Best for last, huh? Um, uh, I'm just full. I just feel the spirit, and Reverend Mo was really just in his responses. It was a sermon in and of itself, and benediction and everything all wrapped up and tied up together. So this is a wonderful way to conclude this series. Absolutely. Thank you guys for joining us. Please make sure to follow the Center for Public Justice at Center Public Justice. Thank you all. I see some of you have already started following. This concludes our Transforming Juvenile Probation Successful Diversion Programs Instagram Live series. There are several other interviews. If you want to go back and learn more about diversion programs and how they partner with government agencies and schools and communities in cities across the country, definitely go check those out. And also, CPJ is having a virtual convening Wednesday, October the 12th. And so we'll have a registration page out that will be coming out soon via our CPJ comms team. Shout out to Deborah and all of her hard work. And we're just excited. We're going to bring Reverend Mo will be there, and several other leaders in this space. Reverend Ruben Austria, Reverend Dr. Charles Boyer, who is based in New Jersey, founder. He and his wife, First Lady, they pastor a church, an AME church in New Jersey, but they also are the founders of Salvation. Make sure I'm saying Salvation and Social Justice. I mean, this panel will blow your mind. So I hope that you all will join us. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. We've been together. We've been doing these, having these conversations for about 2.5 years. Again, my name is YazzieSpeaks Arrington. I hope to see you in October. Let's stay connected. I love you. Until next time, stay blessed, stay well. God bless. Take care. Peace.